video tutorial on data description. This one we're going to learn about understanding data via graphs. And part of what I'm trying to do in this is actually get you to understand the descriptions versus the graphs, because often there's confusion about what these things actually mean that we're computing. Okay, so the first thing is understanding the mean. So I have my data that I'm going to read in here that I've used before. This is the heart rate 2 RVV data set that we've been playing with. I'm going to stick with it because the data is easy to use and we have it right here. Run it, reads it in, and I'm just going to focus on strength right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in here mean for the strength, which we've already done before. So we should know the value. And the value is important in the sense that it measures some measure of center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write this into a value. So I'm going to call this M1 for its, or mean 1. How about that? I'm going to call it the mean because mean is a function and I don't want to overwrite that. All right, so I'm going to make a plot here, and I'm going to plot, let's say here, I'm going to repeat, or I'm going to put in here my HR2 $sign strength, and I'm going to repeat 0 like I did before for the number of rows that let's see here, HR2 has. And this should give me an interesting picture that we've seen before. We did this on a different video. So let's put this on here and see what it looks like. It's not very interesting in the sense of it's just all these points lined up. But what it's doing is it's kind of showing us how they're distributed. And from before we did a histogram. And here we're not really interested in doing a histogram. We want to actually see what the mean does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually plot the mean on here. So I'm going to put here points. And I'm going to put in my x-coordinate mean 1. And in my y-coordinate, I'm going to put in here something like, how about negative 0.1. And let's see what that adds to our picture. And maybe I'm going to make the color equal red. And the shape, let's see, the point character, just make it something different. Maybe 3, maybe that's a triangle, maybe 2 is a triangle actually. We'll see. Put this on here and zoom in again. And you can see what it did. So here, it puts this triangle right here. And this is exactly what this idea is it's like a balance beam. So the mean is the balance point of your data. If you were to put this point anywhere, because we've got this value out here that's extreme, the mean is actually pulled way back from where we would think it would be in the mass of the data. But this is where this data would actually balance. Now, another thing we might be interested in is in the median, and we can look at the median instead here. So I'm going to make median 1, and I'm going to make it the median of it. So the same variable, HR2, strength, and we're going to write this in and run this. And I'm going to put it on here in a different way. I'm going to do an AB line that is V, so it's going to be vertical. That's what the V stands for. And I'm going to put it at median 1. And the color I'm going to use here is, how about blue? And I'm going to do line type equals 2, just to jazz it up a little bit. I'm trying to get you to play around with these. So when I run this all together, let me move this up here just so it's out of my plotting. And let's see what this looks like. I'm going to plot both the mean and the median on here and see what it does. So when I zoom in, this triangle is where the points balance along here. So this is where the values would balance if I were balancing them on a balance beam. This vertical line here is the median, and what this does is it actually cuts the data in half. So 50% of the data is above this point and 50% of the data is below this point. So it actually chops it in half, and that's why I used a dotted line versus a triangle, because a triangle you can think of it balancing. Here this just thinks about it cutting it in half, and it actually does that, cuts it directly in half. So the other thing we might want to be interested in is the quartiles or the quantiles. I'm going to do the quartiles and we'll put those on there as well. So I'm going to do QTL1, and I'm going to do quantile, and I'm going to use the same variable because that's what I've been working with. And what I'm going to do is look at the 5-number summary, essentially. If I can get my fingers to do it. 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, and 1. And close this off. And notice there's going to be several of these that I'm going to have to play with, which means I'll have to subset it. So if I run this, and then I actually look at the values here, there's 5 values. You can see here are the values that I'm interested in. And I'm going to actually put lines on here, these like vertical lines again. So I'm going to do AB line, V equals QTL1, and then I'm going to do bracket 1. And I'm going to make this one, let's say the color, let's make it purple. Maybe that will stand out, and I'm going to make the line type equals 3 in this case, just to change it up a bit. And we'll see what this does when we add it to our plot. Remember, AB line adds to the plot. So this purple dashed line here corresponds to the minimum value. That's the first in the 5-number summary. It's the minimum value. And so we can copy and paste this and just keep adding on so that we can see what happens here. So here, this is the second one, and the third one I don't actually need to put on there because that's the median. And then the 5th one. So here we'll put the 5th one on. I'm going to leave them all purple, the same line type, so we can see what these things do. And these are just measures of position in the data, but they're quite useful. So I'm going to run all this, get a new picture, and I zoom in, and you can see how this looks very different than what you would think. So this, between here and here, is 25% of the data. Between here and here is another, from here, from this purple line to the blue line is another 25% of the data. From the blue line to the line all the way out here, that's 50% of the data is between here and here. So that breaks it up to 25% here, 25% here, 25% here, and 25% out here. So it gives us a measure of how things are spread out. And this bit here forms the box in a box plot. So what we could do is we could actually make a box plot out of this, but we're not going to at the moment. But that's how this works, is that we get a line here for the median. Our mean is a balance point, and we have these measures of position. The minimum, where the first 25% of the data is, the median is where the 50th percentile of the data is, the 75th percentile, and then the maximum. And that's how you think about these, because most people don't think about them. They just calculate them and don't know what they do. And they're really dividing up the data or just trying to describe the data in terms of a balance point. Now, both the median and the mean are measures of center. The quartiles are not measures of any sort of middle or spread or anything like that. Now, you can get the IQR, which is these two subtracted from each other. So those are based off of where is the middle 50% of the data. All right, so we have some better idea of how these numbers work together. Notice I didn't talk about the standard deviation or any others measures such as range, but you can just think about them as I've kind of showed them here, and hopefully this will help you understand what you're actually doing. All right, so time to move on to the next video.